In the high-stakes world of gold mining, loud voices often command the most attention. But sometimes it's the quiet ones you should be watching. Mike Beets is one of those. Gold is in the Beets family blood. Tony Beets, the gravel-voiced patriarch, with a net worth climbing to $15 million, carved out a Klondike empire with grit and iron. Will his children Monica and Kevin followed in his muddy footsteps, making names for themselves in the gold game? And then there was Mike. He didn't bark orders or chase camera time. Instead, he kept his head down, his hands dirty, and his machines moving while the world watched. Tommy and his heirs command the Yukon. Mike built something else quietly, carefully, and when he finally revealed what he'd been working on, it left his family in tears. From the age of 13, Mike was in the trenches, literally waking up to sub-zero mornings, running massive equipment. Before he could drive a car for years, he was the man behind the machines, handling 40-ton cranes, monster trucks, and wash plants the size of houses. He didn't just operate the equipment, he was the equipment. I think we finally hit pay. Well, that's good. Took us long enough, no kidding. That's definitely pay right there. You can see it all over that yellowy stuff. Yeah, that's good stuff. It has that nice sound when you drop it to the click. Cook up the rocks. I love that sound. Yep. Perfect. But even as he became the backbone of the Beets operation, his net worth told a different story. $200,000. That's it, a shocking contrast to his father's fortune and even his siblings' millions. Why? Because Mike wasn't an owner. He wasn't calling the shots. He was keeping the gold flowing, but not cashing in on the bounty. Still, he never complained, never stopped, and he never settled. What was meant to be a routine transport job quickly turned into one of the most critical moments of Mike Beets' mining career, tasked with moving the Kiwi, a $300,000 wash plant, from Paradise Hill to Dominion Creek. Mike took the lead without hesitation. It was supposed to be simple, but in gold mining, simple rarely stays that way. Midway through the journey, disaster struck one of the massive chains securing the plant snapped unexpectedly. In seconds, 25 tons of machinery tipped off the trailer and crashed into the gravel below the ground. Shook dust filled the air. The sound of screeching metal echoed across the valley. The wash plant, now half buried and potentially totaled, had become the crew's worst nightmare. Tommy, this isn't what I expected to see. A chain broke, tipped off, fell off on the high side, as you can see. So go figure that one out, right? That's unreal. Yeah. It didn't seem to do much damage at all, really. Without a functioning wash plant, gold production would come to a halt. And without gold, the season and their paycheck was at risk. It wasn't just a broken machine. It was a make-or-break moment for the entire operation. Tony Beets quickly organized a recovery mission, calling in 2 massive front-end loaders, but all eyes turned to Mike. And he didn't back down. Climbing into the loader, he took control of the situation. This wasn't just about fixing a mistake, it was about showing what he was really made of. With incredible focus and control, Mike coordinated the recovery effort. Slowly, methodically, he guided the massive piece of equipment back onto its base. Every inch mattered. One wrong move could have meant permanent damage, but under Mike's leadership, the crew pulled it off. The Kiwi was upright, dented, but not broken. The season was saved, and something changed that day. The crew didn't just see Mike as the guy behind the wheel anymore. They saw a leader, someone who didn't crumble under pressure, but rose above it. In that moment, Mike Beets stepped out of the shadows and into his own. There's a side to Mike Beets that most people would never expect. Beneath the diesel, the dirt, and the grind of gold mining, he lives a second life, one that seems pulled straight out of a medieval tale. When he's not navigating Yukon's brutal terrain or hauling multi-ton machines across dangerous slopes, he's donning chainmail, lifting a shield, and gripping a steel sword. Yes, a real sword. Mike is a full contact medieval combat fighter. He trains, competes, and enters tournaments across Canada, battling like a warrior from centuries past. The armor is heavy, the hits are real, and the stakes, while not gold, are just as high. By day, he's a miner pushing through snow and steel. By night, he's a knight charging into hand-to-hand combat like it's the Middle Ages. At first glance, it may seem like a strange contrast, but when you look closer, the connection becomes clear. I'm watching the beer and the conveyor to see if any big chunks to pop out the hole. Operator is supposed to watch them, but I understand why she misses sometimes, 'cause they are literally just frozen chunks of pay. Damn near impossible to tell the difference. Both worlds demand grit, strength, strategy, and resilience, and in both Mike proves time and again that he's built for battle, and once again, that unshakable calm was put to the test. Not in an arena, but on a mountainside. It happened on Hunker Summit, one of the most dangerous stretches of mining road. In the Klondike, Mike was hauling a full load in a semi-truck crawling uphill. With thousands of pounds behind him, the weather had been unpredictable, the road slick with patches of wet gravel. Then, without warning, the truck lost traction. The tires spun and gravity took over. The massive rig began sliding sideways. Slowly at first, then with alarming momentum, the edge of the mountain loomed closer with every second. One more slip, and the entire truck, trailer, and load could have plunged into the valley below. But Mike didn't flinch. He steadied the wheel, kept his focus, and calmly radioed for help. Kevin BEETS responded, immediately arriving with another vehicle and a thick industrial chain. The two men worked in sync, anchoring the truck and slowly pulling it back from the brink. Another disaster narrowly avoided, another quiet victory earned without fanfare, and yet it's moments like this that reveal the truth about Mike BEETS. He's not just a miner or a fighter, he's the man who faces down chaos and never lets it win. For much of his life, Mike BEETS worked just out of view, in the place where few ever bother to look, behind the scenes in the shadows, while his brother Kevin stepped into leadership, commanding crews and making calls, and Monica took charge of gold cleanup and key decisions. Mike stayed on the ground, ensuring that every moving part of the operation stayed in motion. Everybody in the BEETS family working together, 'cause we've all been doing this for a long time, and we sent each other to certain jobs. We all know it's going to get done a certain way. It's a lot easier than having to train a whole bunch of new people to do it that way. No matter what you say, he was the force that kept Paradise Hill alive, the problem solver, the one who got the call when things broke, stalled, or simply refused to work. And yet, when the cameras rolled or the promos aired, his name was rarely front and center. He wasn't the face of the family. He wasn't cast as the mogul or the star. There were no interviews showcasing his plans or close-ups capturing his reactions, but that never seemed to bother Mike. He wasn't chasing applause, he was chasing results. In a world full of noise, he chose to be the one thing the BEETS mining empire couldn't survive without. Reliable. So when the dust began to settle and Mike finally stepped away, just slightly, what he left behind wasn't expected. It wasn't gold bars or a flashy business deal. It wasn't even something you could measure in ounces or dollars. What he left was proof that he was never just an operator, never just a machine handler or a dependable second in command. Mike had quietly, methodically transformed Paradise Hill. He'd implemented smarter systems, restructured the workflow, and upgraded the site with subtle but powerful improvements. There were no announcements, no credit seeking, no self-promotion. He simply made the operation better. And when Tony BEETS, the man who built an empire from the frozen dirt of the Klondike, finally paused to see what Mike had created, there were no dramatic speeches, no outbursts, just a long, steady look, and then a nod. It was the quiet moment where father and son understood without a word that the torch wasn't being taken. I think the last guy, I should have put a better weld on it, but I think he's dead, so no use complaining. Mike never chased fame. He never demanded a bigger slice of the pie. He just kept showing up, proving himself again and again. And now, whether or not the cameras Our rolling his impact is undeniable. He saved seasons, he mastered machines, he faced disasters with calm precision, and he brought the family business into a new era on his terms. He didn't just move gold, he moved the needle. The question now is, will Mike Beets ever take the reins completely? No one can say for sure, maybe not even Mike himself. For someone who has spent a lifetime in motion, the future isn't written, it's lived one decision at a time. But what we do know is this: if and when that moment comes, he won't hesitate, he'll be ready. While the world kept its eyes on Tony's booming voice, Monica's rise through the ranks, and Kevin's push for independence, Mike was quietly becoming the most essential part of the entire BEETS legacy, the silent driver behind the machines, the quiet strategist behind the success, the unexpected knight beneath the armor of oil and grit.